Thank you, Andy. Good morning again. It is my honor to introduce our speaker today. He is a founder of this center. At that time was the Church of Religious Science. And Dr. Dennis, his essence will always be here no matter what it's called or whoever else is here. He is my mentor, my teacher. I started classes with him and went all the way through my ministerial teaching. And he became my little brother. He's a month younger than I am. And you know how that is. I keep telling him he'll always be my little brother. And he was always the burr underneath my saddle, which kept me spurred forward. And when you hear this man speak, you'll understand what clarity, principle, and complete love is all about. It is my honor to introduce Dr. Dennis Merritt Jones, my brother, my mentor, my teacher.
Got lots of stuff over there. So first off, I got to take care of some business. It is so great to hear you.
Thank you, Dennis.
Man, I'll tell you.
Thank you very much.
And your wonderful band, too. Now the other business. Hello. It really is an honor for me to be back here this morning. It's 6 years ago, last month, 2 months ago, that I said goodbye in one regard. And here I am again saying hello. So I am here this morning. By the way, wherever Dr. Jim is, I know that he's probably as somebody said earlier, watching this. Everybody turn to the camera, just wave and say, "Hey, Dr. Jim." So the presentation I want to make with you this morning, present to you, is based on my latest book, Your Redefining Moments, Becoming Who You Were Born to Be. And the title of the lesson that I want to share with you this morning is, Who Does Your Soul Ask You to Be? And I wonder how often we sit in contemplation and asking that deeper question of, who have I come here to be? You see, I think that we were born hardwired. The moment that we were born, we were imbued with some sacred spiritual DNA that was unique and different from any other living thing on this planet. And that we knew who that was the moment we were born. And we landed in this body, and instantly, it's difficult living in a human skin. Can I get a witness for that? Because living in the human skin, we metaphorically, the older we get, chronologically, the thicker the skin gets. In other words, the more labels get placed on us from the day we're born, and the labels get thicker and thicker and thicker, and by the time we're in adulthood, we have fallen into what is endemic in the culture of the humankind is spiritual amnesia. And we've forgotten who we are. And that's why redefining moments are so darned important. Because it is in our redefining moments that we are reminded of who we are and from whence we've come. What is a redefining moment? A redefining moment is it's an energy vortex that can happen in any given moment of our lives, when in that moment we somehow are connected with that self, that something that is larger than us. You all know what I'm talking about, yes? That which is larger than us. Probably the best example of a redefining moment that I can share with you happened, 29 and a half years ago, 2 months before this church was given birth. I stood in the delivery room as the doctor handed me my newborn baby, Merritt. And I walked into the delivery room already with so many labels on myself that were defining father, protector, provider, allowance giver, softball coach, all the things that I had already placed labels on me regarding her. And the doctor handed her to me. And the whole time that she was in her mother's womb, for 9 months, I would sing a song to her. And as the doctor handed her to me, I looked into the dark pools of her eyes, and I began to sing. Some of you may remember this song from a long time ago. I'll just sing a couple of words of the chorus. I looked into her eyes and I sang, "Hey, little one, I love you, and you don't have to change for me. I love you, and that's unconditionally." And it was in that moment that I melted down. All the labels fell off. And in that moment, I looked into her and I had this awareness of where this amazing little precious package had just come from. The absolute, infinite, consolidated into this little human skin. And as I looked into her, I had that awareness. Oh, this is God looking at itself. Needless to say, I walked out of that delivery room differently than I walked in. And you know, redefining moments are such a vital part of our lives. And if you think about it this way, you realize that you were a what before you became a who? And the what is what? It's Q&A time. The what is what? The infinite presence of the all that is. And it so desired to know itself that it consolidated itself into this human thing that we all live in, and it became a who. Individuated as a who. Uniquely imprinted in every cell of our DNA, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, a unique, one-of-a-kind creature. Take a deep breath. Doesn't that feel good just to come back and connect with that which is the truth? I wonder how many of us are stuck in that spiritual amnesia. And we live more from who we are not. We define ourselves more by who we are not rather than who we are. From the day we were born, consider this, we were given ideas and information from other people that began to define us. You with me? So look at the labels that you wear today. You know, your gender, your ethnicity, your age, your name. We could go on and on with the labels. And if you think about it, all the beliefs that were handed to us sank into our subconscious, into the deepest place of our belief systems. And some of those beliefs that were given to us by other people, you know, never perhaps aren't the truth and never were the truth. And yet we've lived from them because we have interpreted them as the truth because that's what we were given. And we'd have never taken the moment to stop. If you could look into your subconscious, into your deepest beliefs, unconscious beliefs, you'd find ideas and beliefs there that are probably not the truth. And we've lived from them as if they were the truth because we never saw them consciously and clear enough to challenge them, to take that moment to redefine ourselves based on who we know we are rather than who we were told we are. Can I get a witness? Here's the problem. The world defines itself from the outside in. The world defines itself, and therefore we have been taught to define ourselves from the outside in. There's probably no better example of that than how we define ourselves by means of a physical. When you describe yourself, how do you begin describing yourself? Oftentimes, well, certain height, certain skin color, certain age. We go into this definition of how the world defines us. I saw an article in the paper this morning that I want to share with you because I think it's, did you see the life section in the Star this morning? 2 of you, okay. This is a story about a man who is a quadriplegic, living in a wheelchair. Daniel Reed, 14 years old, when he climbed on top of a rodeo bull that would put him in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. The bull turned and stomped on me, stomped my head, Reed said, now 53 years old. Reed can no longer ride bulls, so he decided to ride the wind. With friends and supporters in tow, the Ventura cowboy wheeled himself over the coastal skydive in California at the Camarillo Airport and decided to take his first skydive. Even if you're handicapped, don't just sit there and be a couch potato, Reed said, for his reasons for skydiving. Get out and do things. Reed, who suffered the accident in his native Bakersfield, lost motor skills and cognitive ability and has some difficulty in his speech, but his inner cowboy was unharmed. Is that not a beautiful metaphor for that soul, that space, that essence within? We have a number of examples. Just my beautiful friend Joe LaSalle. I've known Joe for how many years, Joe?
About 28.
When you had longer hair and I had darker hair. And yet Joe was referred to for years as the Wheel and Wonder. I remember when you first came to our church, people were stunned that this man did not know his any physical limitations. Have you seen him on a dance floor with a wheelchair? This is a man who has not allowed his life to be defined by a physical condition. How many of us in our daily lives tend to define ourselves by, just as an example, our body size, our height, or not, our age? How about this, the job titles that we have? We could go on and on and on with how we have defined ourselves. And yet, when we understand, oftentimes we live in those definitions from the outside in so much that we end up feeling we have to cover over those labels with masks because we don't like the labels that we see. And some of the masks are shame, guilt, anger, resentment, superiority, inferiority. Anybody want to throw any more in there? The masks that we wear that cover over the labels? Oh gosh, years ago, when Diane, my beautiful bride, and I, we took our grandchildren who were at the time 6 and 8 years old, James and Kaylin, trick-or-treating. And James was dressed up as the Grim Reaper. He had the horrifying mask and the sickle and the whole thing. He was just really ready to go out and scare the stuff out of people. Kaylin was going as the kindly good wizard and had no mask at all. And I asked her, I said, Kaylin, honey, where's your mask? She said, Grandpa, good wizards can't wear a mask. If they did, nobody would see how good they were. Do you get it? How many times do we hide behind the masks that cover up our goodness? We have a slide. Whoever is running our slides, you could pop up this first one. Thanks, Linda. When we understand, when we begin to peel away the masks and the labels, you'll discover that underneath that is the authentic self, that individual essence that we were the moment we were born, what we began to forget about. And when we begin to live from the authentic self, from that essence of who we were, that divine what, that personalized itself as a unique who, these are the qualities that we'll experience in our daily lives. These are, by the way, this afternoon I'm going to be going into this in much more detail in our workshop. It's going to really plumb the depths of this. But wholeness, reverence, fearlessness, integrity, humility, equanimity, and love, those are when we're living from the authentic self, these will be the qualities that arise in our life on a daily basis to become the basis of our experience and how we present ourselves to the world. How often would it be nice to remember the wholeness of who we are? To live in true reverence of who we are. The fearlessness that comes from the authentic self. I could go on with this, but I've got too much more I want to talk about. We'll explore that this afternoon. But for now, where's my water here? Here's the key. Mindfulness is the practice we must learn. What is mindfulness? Mindfulness is being in the present moment, isn't it? It's learning to bring ourselves into the sacred presence. Throughout the ages, the masters from antiquity referred to this as the Sacred Sojourn. The Sacred Sojourn was the journey they knew they had to take from the lowlands where the collective consciousness lives, that is endemic with spiritual amnesia, and we live on this timeline on the surface of life. They knew they had to ascend to the mountaintop. That's both metaphoric and in truth. And when they ascended to the mountaintop, what would they do there? They would cleanse themselves of the forgetfulness that is endemic on the surface of life. They would meditate. They would listen. They would go within. They would remember their wholeness. Remember means to come back to the whole. And they would dive deeply into that sacred self that they knew themselves to be, and in that place of seclusion, re-energize that self. And then they knew, here's the hook, they knew they couldn't stay on top of the mountain. They knew they had to come back down the mountain and into the lowlands where they lived and shared by example the remembrance of who they were, the truth of who they were. How are you breathing right now? See, mindfulness is remembering who you are in the moment. May I have the second slide if you could, please. Thank you, Linda. While the masters took the sacred sojourn up the mountain, we too must learn to take the sacred sojourn. But we don't have to go to the mountaintop to do it. If you take a look at this chart, and again, we're going to explore this afternoon, think of this line, the horizontal line, as where we exist in the human condition. We have a past, we have a future, and our lives are full of doing, and this is where, this line up here is where life happens to us. Can you relate with what I'm talking about? It's the human condition. And in every given moment, the self lies within us, waiting for us to take the vertical plunge. This is the mountaintop for the masters, but we don't go to the mountaintop, we don't go within. We actualize that authentic self that was there and is there since the day we were born, and we bring it back to the surface of life. And when we incorporate the beingness with our doingness, and the circle represents where it is always happening in the present moment. This is why mindfulness is so important, because every given moment of every day is another opportunity for us to bring our being, to have redefined, that's a redefined moment, to bring the deepest awareness of who we are into the moment and actualize it and integrate it. You with me? Of course you are. It's very quiet in here. Is that a good sign or a bad sign, Andy? I don't know. Okay. So, the masters knew that the gift that they would bring back down the mountain was the full embodiment of who they were, to share it with others. And as we go to this deep place within, at any given moment, if we can remember to come back to the present moment and take that vertical plunge, just marinate ourselves in the awareness of that sacred being we were the moment we were born, and bring it back to the surface and actualize it and live in it in the moment. The question has to be, the masters knew what their gift was. And we take time when we sit in the silence and we ask ourselves, what is the gift that I bear to bring to the world? You ever thought of that? What's the answer? Just stop. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror, and you'll see the gift. Not just what you're looking at, but look into that being in which is staring back at you. That is the gift you have come here to share with the world. I'm going to close with a wonderful reading from a lot of you. Any children of the 60s here? I know that. From the Desiderata, Max Ehrmann. Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. Speak your truth quietly and clearly. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain and bitter. Be yourself. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. And you have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. That's time to take a breath. Whatever your labors and aspirations in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace in your soul. Be cheerful. Strive to be happy. You see, you really are a child of God. This is your time. Just as it took tens of thousands of years for the light from certain stars to reach this planet today, that is how long the what you are has traveled to be here now to manifest as the who you are. You are that important to the universe. Everything that has happened, everything in your life has brought you to this moment. How you interpret it and what you do with it shall define who you really are. So who does your soul ask you to be? If you take time and you listen, not just with your ear, but with your heart, you'll know. Who does your soul ask you to be? And are you being it? I close with a wonderful quote by Elie Wiesel. When we die and go to heaven, the Creator will not ask us, why didn't you invent the cure for such and such? He will say, why didn't you become you? This, right now, could very well be your redefining moment. Take the plunge. I am, God is. It doesn't get any more simple than that. And that's the truth about who you have come here to be. I'm so honored and so pleased to be here with you this morning to reconnect. And I look forward to seeing you this afternoon in the workshop where we will go deeper into this truth. Know that I love you. Peace.
Love you, Dennis. Love you, buddy.
Thank you.